You can come out now, Beef Boss.
How'd you know it was me?
Because this isn't blood, it's ketchup.
Foiled by my own condiments! You'll never take me alive, though!
Alfred, lights. Okay people, welcome back to another Fwoosh review. Today let's finally take a look at the Medicom MAFEX Hush Batman. And we've been waiting for this one for a while. Has it been about a year? Over a year? Somewhere in there? Like I always say during the weeklies, when it comes to Medicom, you just kind of pre-order and forget. But for something as iconic as this, we've gotten a lot of good Batmans in the past, but a lot of us have been searching for that one Batman. That one we can put up on the shelf and say, I don't need any more Batmans. Well, I'll still buy more Batmans, but that's the Batman. So after seeing promotional pictures of this whenever it was, back last year, I thought, oh, that may be the Batman. That sentence doesn't make any sense. So it's hard to practice what you preach when you're this excited about a release. But looking at the package, it's what we're used to with MAFEX. They change things up, at least color-wise and design-wise, and this box doesn't quite look like the usual dollar store packaging. It's actually done very nice. They've dialed it back a bit. But you have the big window, and Batman's kind of shrouded in darkness in there. You see most of the accessories. Well, okay, there's hands hidden off behind there. But then Batman Hush, and I like how it goes behind. It's very artistic. On the side, another promotional shot, same logos, just different order. On the back, here's the full array of pretty promotional images. Walking, jumping, standing. Most of the accessories it comes with. Some legalese, that creepy ass bear. On the other side, I really love this. I'd like this as a banner or something. On the top, another promotional shot, another Batman Hush. I'm reading that so much that Hush is losing meaning, and I'm thinking, is that spelled wrong? On the bottom, a bunch more legalese, more warnings, your unpiratable hologram sticker. But let's get this open and see if this is the Batman. Still doesn't make sense, but I'm gonna run that joke right in the ground. And yep, there it is. Usually this stand on the back is flopping around, hanging. They made sure to secure this one. Like I always say, the MAFEX stands, it's a stand, but they're usually short and kind of floppy. Not my favorite action figure stands. Oh, and getting it out and messing around with it for a bit, it's a little frustrating. You know how MAFEX can be, but man, this may be the Batman. Right off the bat, it has a big honking cape, and it flows out and gets in the way and is a little cumbersome. So, while we're looking at the body, I've got it clipped back right here. And in some of the pictures, it helps to make it not so billowy, flowy, you know what I mean? But we'll get to that in a second because I want to look at the body first. It's a big, beefy Jim Lee body. Kind of. It's lean too, and sometimes when I'm messing with it, I think, it's a bit skinny. But then I'll look up a picture from Hush, and it'll be thin. I don't know, I always equate Jim Lee to huge muscles, and there's a lot of muscle here, but it's not as thick as I thought it'd be. Don't get me wrong, it's a great sculpt and it evokes that comic art perfectly. It's sharp when it needs to be sharp and soft when it needs to be soft. And I don't mean soft in a bad way, it's just that, you know, musculature. It should have some curve to it. And that carries all the way down to the legs. There is a sculpted line for the boot. It's very subtle. And you can see that the paint missed slightly there. Fairly simple boots, but oh man, look at the tread on those. That's the most intricate sculpting on the whole figure. Well, I guess it could be argued that the belt is pretty damn detailed. Just pouches going all the way around. It does have a little dirtiness to it, some wash, and that's the same for the grays on the body. And that's the same for the gray too. There is some shadowing to the crevices, but it's hard to see because the musculature, the grooves themselves cause natural shadows that it blends right in. And while we're talking about colors, the blues, sometimes it looks really blue and then I'll be looking, or when I first got it out of the package, I thought, is that more gray? And that's because the shading kind of travels down onto that blue. So it'll trick your eye every now and then into thinking, that's just a dark gray, but no, it's bluish. The bat logo on the chest, it's also sculpted in. It's painted better than the boots. I mean, you could pick out a little missed spots, but in the long run, from a distance, on the shelf, it looks fantastic. And then up at the head, very, very Jim Lee-ish. It has that scowling mouth, Frowny face Batman. What's the matter, Batman? You have the short ears, fairly clean, fairly smooth to the rest of the cowl. You can see the indents of ears poking through. The perma-angry brow, the white eyes piercing through what is, again, just shaded crevices there. It's especially effective when you're not in complete blinding light. It works even better in kind of shadow. But then there is the cape. There's a wired edge coming right out of the front of the cowl here. And that, you can spread out this far. There's also a second wire running right here. The third, of course, is on the opposite side, and then the fourth is on the front on his left side. And there is a lot of cape here. MAFEX loves just giving you more than enough fabric for some sweeping out cape poses. And it's also bunched up under the neck piece, so much so that it looks like it's having trouble holding it all in. You can kind of see it pushing itself up. And I have seen pictures online where this has popped loose and it's gapped. Mine's glued in there fairly nice. It seems to be holding. But with the wire, you can have that hanging down and it's nice and pliable. Bring it around and you can put it anywhere you want. But when you're in action poses, I've taken to taking this front wire, putting it over the shoulder, and then taking the second wire and bringing it forward. And that gives you kind of that swept back look. Or you can go full detective covered mode. Hell, half the time though, you put it in a pose and it does its own little sweep. It is an extension of the character. The cape helps add drama to a scene and it's its own entity. Although it can be clumsy because we're already running into MAFEX engineering. And I don't have any full-on QC issues here, but there's the usual kind of pain in the ass to get the abs straight. For some reason, they sculpted the legs to stay bent. This is as straight as you can get it, and it's still kicking forward. So when you go to stand him, and you're messing with the cape and you push, he's gonna crumple. But I had to push pretty hard to make that happen. It's not like he fell under his own weight. So like most MAFEX, you have to, plan ahead and work and put the legs out and get it in poses and then mess with the cape before you even get into it. But in the long run, you end up with fantastic looking poses. Because articulation wise, there is a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck going up into the skull and then a ball joint at the bottom of the neck. All that together you can look up, can bury the chin. Oh, there's the tilt. Swivel. For the shoulder, there's a butterfly, but it's not so much forward and back. There is some movement there. It's more up and down. And we've seen this before with, I think, Cyclops, but that's for, you bring it up. If he's swinging, you get full on swing. But there's also extra movement with a ball joint on the outside of that butterfly. Well, I don't know. You have to play with it. You can get forward and back all around. There's a hinge out there that goes past 90. Swivels all the way around. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow all the way up. When you're coming back, I've noticed, well, it's not going to do it now. Sometimes it snags right there on the inside of the assembly, and you want to force it, but don't do that. Kind of bring it back and work it, and it'll go straight. There's a swivel hinge swivel out at the wrist, so you can go this way and this way, but if you want it in a different direction, just rotate it around, and then you have side to side. Ball joint mid-torso, ball joint at the waist. Together, you're gonna crunch most of the way. It doesn't get as much arc back, but it does open up right there if you get crazy with it, so you have to close it up. But there's also tilt and tilt. It swivels in both positions, and that's what I was talking about a minute ago. It gets out of alignment. You gotta kind of mess around with it, fudge it. There. The belt floats. It is attached in the back, but it gets up and down, and the crotch, yeah, it's a rubber overlay, so it's going to get out of the way of the leg. And with the hip, that does drop down, and then you bring it up, and it goes, well, about 90. Back, out, not as good as you would think, but still not half bad. I mean, it's not full 90, but it goes out. Then that rotates on that assembly at the hip, shift back up, double knee, oh yeah, boop, 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 kicks his belt. Like the elbow, the knee likes to catch right there. You come back and it snags, just kind of push it in and it'll go back. At the ankle, it hinges back, forward facing pin for a rocker, toe joint that goes up to there. For accessories, Batman comes with 2 fists. He comes with 2 splayed out hands. There are 2 relaxed hands, 2 grip hands that don't really grip anything, and it took me a minute to figure it out, but it does hold on to the cape. You slide the wire in and it holds it. There's 2 hands with spaces between the fingers. That's for batarangs. We'll get to that in a second. There's 2 hands with batarangs molded in between the fingers for this claw look. Stay in your own lane, bub. And then there's a left and right with grapnel guns molded into them. And like most MAFEX, it just pops off. The fists are the easiest to pull on and off because they were on there in the package. The rest of them, the holes are a little small. I guess they do that on purpose so it'll be tight, but ooh, get on there. It's so dirt. It's scary. I keep threatening to get a drill bit for holes like this just to give it more clearance, but I haven't done it yet. Batman also comes with 2 sets of batarangs. There are these 2 flat, kind of plain looking ones, but that goes in between the fingers of the batarang throwing hands, and it looks great. Same thing goes for these bigger batarangs, but there's actually a sculpt kind of to it. It has a raised edge down the middle. Goes between the fingers, looks bat-tastic. Not a huge difference in size here, but it's options. I like it. And then for the grapnel guns, there are 2 grappling hook options. There's the hook with the short piece on it, and this is actually metal. But that goes in this hole on the end, and there's, oh, well, there is some space, but it doesn't really lock in there. You get crazy with it, it's gonna fall out. And then there's another grappling hook with this longer piece of metal, and I guess they use metal just to keep it straight, like it's shooting out, it'll stay solid. I keep wanting to bend it a tad, but once you bend it, it will probably never go back to this shape again. Well, I say this shape, it's a line. The same thing into the hole in the grapnel, and it doesn't lock in there, but most of the time you're going to be pointing this up anyway, so yeah, not a big deal. And then for head options, there is the head we already looked at. Then there's an alternate head. It's even more angry. He's gritting his teeth. He's, you know, under stress. You can't be Robin. Now in the package, it's just the head, but the first time you go to pull this off, the whole neck's gonna come off. You can see the ball joint down in there, neck on the head, but it's easy enough just to pop it off there. I will say the dumbbell going from the neck into the head, boy, that sucker's tight. Line up the Adam's apple with the front of the face, and then here, you have to kind of wiggle it in. It is a tight fit, and then pop it onto the ball. And you're done. There you go. Angrier Batman. But that's not all. We also get an unmasked Bruce Wayne head. And this looks great. I guess because it's comic book style, they didn't get into all the realistic skin tones and details, so it works better here. But here, same thing. You got to pull the head, the neck's going to come off. The unmasked head has its own neck that is also bare. That pops in, but it looks a bit naked. I wish it was like Wolverine and he had a downed cowl that would go over the back here. I feel like that would just complete the look. But this looks great too. This gives me a lot of hope for the Hush Superman. Batman stands at about 6 1/4 inches tall to the top of the head and 6 3/8 to the top of the ears. And that seems to be the scale Medicom's gonna run with their comic lines. Sometimes they'll do a series bigger, sometimes smaller, but here it seems to all mesh together. You can see Cyclops is just a little wider, but I love that they went matte finish with all of Batman. With the X-Men, it's a little shiny, a little metallic. Batman doesn't need any of that. You get him in the dark, he doesn't need light reflecting off of him. That's perfect. This is the only Hush type figure I have, and I don't know why I have it. I think I got it for the head originally. You can see Medicom loves their big capes. Here it is with the Medicom MAFEX Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises Bane.
You must be the Batman.
Here's the Medicom MAFEX Shazam, and was this Dawn of Justice, Superman versus Batman? DC Icons, Joker, and Batman, that line was slightly smaller. While DC Universe Classics skewed larger, more towards 6.5 inch scale. Because that is a big Riddler and an even bigger KG Beast. Although, I'm okay with this. Oh, Mattel. Here's the DC Universe Classics, what are you doing? Classic Robin, and then a later DC Multiverse Robin. Again, this is okay, but not stylistically. Here it is with the Marvel Legends Daredevil and 80th Anniversary Captain America. Again, a line that skews slightly larger than true 1/12 scale. But a line that's closer to 6 inch scale is the Hasbro G.I. Joe Classified series.
G.I. Joe is there!
Then there's the Mezco 1/12 Collective Batman, and I can't remember what this is called. It looked Jim Lee-ish. I bought it and immediately regretted my decision. So at the end of the day, this is the Batman. It's dynamic. I wish it was a duo, but it's dynamic on its own right now. It's posable, it's sturdy, it is a little frustrating here and there, but only because of all the things you have to account for. The big flowing billowy cape, the huge amounts of articulation in places that sometimes works against itself, but easily worked around. The colors dulled down just as you would expect on this Batman, but there's just something about it. Everything blends together. It just works even in 3D form. And for everybody that's had problems with MAFEX in the past at some point or another, or you're going all the way back to the beginning of the line when they did have shitty QC, I see none of that here. I may have a couple of minor gripes. The usual hands are too tight to push on, or the legs don't go completely straight, and it may have just a touch too much cape, but those are not major gripes. Those are just minor quibbles I have with an otherwise fantastic action figure. This was the determining factor when it comes to Medicom's DC comic line. I was already happy with their Marvel line, and some people could argue that Venom is a little bit small, but Medicom was throwing out the pre-orders for the Hush line and other Batmans like Dark Knight Returns. And I can't even keep track of what they've already solicited with the rest of the Hush, like Superman and Catwoman and Hush, and who else? Another Batman in black and gray, which is, after this, it is bought. Medicom went way deeper than I thought they would with the Nolan trilogy figures. I want them to do the same thing here. I need a Joker, I need a Harley, I need a Nightwing, but more than anything, it's been a while since we've had a good Robin. If it's as good as this Batman, I could finally have the dynamic duo. The end-all, be-all, shelf-worthy versions of Batman and Robin. Whew, got a little excited there. So if you enjoyed the review, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early, or you're just in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. Yeah, it's not like I fought it to get into this pose. It's going to be hard to decide just how I'm going to pose it in the display. This is going to be one of those, like a Revoltech figure. You want to grab it every now and then and just move it to a different position, and because any pose you put it in, it's going to look fantastic.